Hey guys, Hybrid here. I'm going to be reviewing The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I'm just saying this now. I'm a bit sick today, so I do apologize. I look kind of like I've been laying in bed all day. You see my cat right there. And also, for everybody that said I don't work at Regal Cinemas, when I said I do, here's my work shirt, my Regal work shirt. Also, my theater is doing a special thing for Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't know if the other ones are, but basically, I know it's total just product placement here. Um, there we go. Basically, it's if you pre-order your ticket, I believe, for Amazing Spider-Man 2 ahead of time, we'll give you a digital download code for the first one for free. And then 6 months after the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is released in theaters, we'll give you another free one for that one, a digital download. I don't know if it's through iTunes or whatever, but yeah, that's it. So yeah, I'm gonna be reviewing the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm gonna give you good stuff, in my opinion, good stuff, bad stuff, and neutral stuff that I'm not really sure if I feel good or bad about. Now, I'm not going to recap the story because I'd be spoiling it, and a lot of people got mad that I did a little bit of that in the last review I did for Captain America 2. So, the good, let's begin that. It continues off of The Amazing Spider-Man, at least the stuff in it, and by that I mean Captain Stacy. He appears very, very briefly throughout the film, just kind of to remind Peter of the ending of The Amazing Spider-Man 1. Now, I did like that. Mostly I like that because I was hoping they wouldn't leave that, because that should be something important and that should be something that they continue on, and they did. So I did enjoy that they just didn't disregard that, because I would have been kind of upset if they did that, because I'm like, why'd you make the point of even having that? Also, no Lizard. That's a great decision. I'm happy they did that because they finished the Lizard part and it's time to move on. Except for, I was wondering if they were going to do a brief cameo, but I'm happy they didn't. I'm happy they just kept on going with it and didn't go back. Also, the Spider-Man personality that they had in this one, I did like a lot. By that I mean, he cracks jokes, he's fun, he's energetic, he's everything. He's just like the Spider-Man you read in comics, essentially, which I did enjoy, versus the Spider-Man in the Raimi films, which kind of felt like all one person. In this one, it definitely feels like Peter Parker and Spider-Man, they are the same person, but at the same time, it feels like they have two different personalities. You definitely get that vibe in the film, especially because Peter Parker does a lot more kind of sulking in this film, versus Spider-Man, who does like none of that, essentially. Also, I love the world building they did in this one. I think they did a good job. I'll get to more on that later, but they are definitely setting up for the Sinister Six. That's kind of obvious in this movie, especially at the end of it, where they kind of show like some of the stuff. Like they show Vulture's harness, Doc Ock's arms, and like a prototype part of Rhino's mech suit. So they're definitely building up for that. They didn't hide that, but I did enjoy that to a degree too, because at least we know where it's coming from, and it's not just gonna be an out of the blue thing like, oh, Sinister Six is just here. Also, we got more details on the unknown story. Brief spoilers, I'm gonna put that in the description, that there's spoilers, and also on the title. But yeah, so we get more on the whole spider thing. I really did like the whole Richard Parker, the kind of plot reveal they did with that and the spiders. I think that's really interesting. At least that's something unknown that I don't think I've ever read that before with the spider. Also, they did reveal the spiders are radioactive spiders, not genetically altered spiders, which I did like. So that's really good. I'm not going to reveal the full extent of that because I just spoiled the movie, but I did enjoy what they did there. Also, the Peter-Gwen dynamic, very, very strong. Obviously, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone are dating in real life, and that really shows in this one, their chemistry, so I really did like that. Also, Peter, Gwen, and Harry, all of their actors did a great job in the roles, especially Dan DeHaan. He came in here swinging. By that I mean he came in here as if he's been in the role for a while now, just like Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone were. Jamie Foxx did a good job too, but I just really wasn't feeling the character. And it's not his fault, it's just the way the character was written, which I'll get to later. Also, I did enjoy the film. Overall, the film was pretty solid, and the story was pretty solid too. All the characters really fit into the story, and I did like that. It wasn't very kind of compacted like Spider-Man 3 was, where the plot lines didn't really seem to fit each other. This one, they did fit each other, and even though some of them were very loose threads, the threads are at least still there, and I did enjoy that aspect of it versus them just pulling something out of thin air and like just go with it. Also, the action sequences are pretty well done. I was very unsure with how they do them, especially with Electro, and also Green Goblin and Rhino, etc., etc. I'm not going to talk about the Rhino one because that's really not even an action sequence per se, even though the one in the beginning is before he becomes Rhino. But I did enjoy them. I liked how Spider-Man, definitely you get a feel that he's much more used to his powers versus the first movie. So that was really cool to see, because one thing the Raimi films were very static about was how Spider-Man really showed off his abilities, because he didn't seem to show any growth with them. While in this one, we definitely feel like growth with Spider-Man and the way he uses his powers. So I did enjoy that quite a bit. Now let's go into what I consider the bad. This has extreme levels of foreshadowing in the future. From Gwen's speech in the beginning, because she becomes a valedictorian. Her speech in the beginning, the replaying of her speech at the end, which, by the way, quick question I have, if anyone can answer this: why does it seem like the speech she gives in the beginning is different than the one she gives at the end? I was really confused about that, but it's definitely foreshadowing. This whole movie is foreshadowing. The gears, I don't know if the gears of the clock tower is supposed to be foreshadowing too, like, time and, moving on, like, all that stuff, different past, different time. I don't know if it was supposed to be meta in any sense, but I thought the clock tower thing was definitely a different, like, I felt like there was a reason they chose a clock tower for the final scene, and especially, spoiler alert, the scene of Gwen's death was at a clock tower. I wonder if that was on purpose. I don't know. But, yeah, the amount of foreshadowing in this movie was just a bit kind of too much, I think. At least in my opinion, I thought they could have toned it down a little bit, because you were kind of like, oh snap, she's probably gonna die. But yeah, so also Max Dillon / Electro, his character in general, I was very about. I wasn't really feeling it. Totally different take than they did in the other comics, like 616 and Ultimate. I was very, very, very not liking how they did it. Like, I understand he's like, no one notices him, it was his birthday, and, I guess he just wants to be noticed, and he's finally noticed, and then it just kind of gets ripped away from him, and I guess that's traumatic for him and all that stuff, and he totally overreacts. I get that, but it just felt too much. Like, it didn't really feel believable. And you don't have to be realistic to be believable. To be believable, you just have to convey it well. And they kind of made everything else in this movie believable besides this. Also, I forgot another good thing I had. I have this all written down, but I skipped over it. The Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn genetic subplot, that they're both like dying, it's a genetic thing. I did enjoy that, because I gave them a reason and gave them a purpose to doing what they're doing. So I did enjoy that. At least it wasn't just out of the blue. But when Norman died, I was kind of expecting more from it, and they just kind of like left it, which was kind of odd. But yeah, so Max Dillon, Electro's character, I just wasn't really feeling it. He just kind of felt there, and the way they built him up to be Electro, it just kind of felt like they didn't have anything, and they just kind of pulled something out of a hat and decided to go with it. So I didn't like that. Also, Oscorp pushing Harry out as soon as he became like the CEO of Oscorp, that felt really odd, and that didn't make any sense to me. It kind of reminded me of the Raimi Spider-Man movie from the first one, where they kind of pushed Norman out. And the reason I say that is because, not because it's like the Raimi one, but because the Raimi one, they actually kind of gave a reason why the board was trying to push Norman out. But in this one, there's no reason for them to push Norman out, or push Harry out, sorry. Harry did nothing wrong with Oscorp. It seemed like they were running things the way they wanted to anyways. Like, it didn't seem like Norman was doing much for Oscorp. And sorry for not looking at the camera, it's because I'm reading what I wrote. But it's like, there's no reason to push Harry out. So I don't understand why they did push Harry out. So that just kind of seemed odd to me, because it didn't do anything for the movie whatsoever. But also, Harry as the Goblin in general, that was extremely rushed. That fight scene at the clock tower between Harry and Peter, I expected more, and it was very underwhelming. So I didn't really like that, especially like, why would you introduce him as the Goblin, and they really built up to that, like during the movie, and then just kind of, it was just like Venom in Spider-Man 3, where they really built up to him, and then once you got there, it was just, you were underwhelmed. But I did enjoy how they didn't kill him off though, because at least he can do more in the future, which could hopefully redeem the fact that he didn't do much at all in this movie as Goblin. Also the airplane scene where like, so in the first movie we had the whole cranes and the crane dad. In this movie we have airplanes that, due to Electro basically turning all the power off in the city, the instruments aren't working. They have no radar. They don't know what's going on. So these two airplanes are coming to a collision. That had no point at all in this whole movie. It just wasted time, in my opinion, because didn't do anything. Like, at least the cranes, they served a purpose to, they all lined up. Spider-Man was able to swing off the cranes. That was cool. But this one, it just seemed like they needed some filler scene to kind of give it more time between the other scenes that we actually care about. Because you leave this movie, you won't care about the airplane scene. For all we know, the airplane scene doesn't even matter. There's nothing for the film whatsoever. So I didn't understand why they had that in the film really and didn't add anything whatsoever. So I put it under my bad category. Now neutral. And I'm going to be wrapping this up soon. I know it's getting over 10 minutes, which was not my goal, obviously. Because I don't want to make it too long because then it's boring. But neutral. Peter's college status at the end of the film, because it takes like a 5-month time jump, because they kind of do a Spider-Man No More thing, which I'm pretty neutral about, because I'm like, on one hand, I don't care really, but on the other hand, it's kind of nice they did that little nod thing. But yeah, what's up with his college status? Is he going to college still? What college is he going to? What is he majoring in? I was kind of wondering about these things. Also, how does he not have a scholarship? There's a scene where Aunt May is kind of talking about one of the things that is like stressing her out is the fact that she's trying to find a way to pay for his college, which I can understand, because my mom, same way, different parents, not different parents, but other people's parents, same way, that's a stress a lot of parents have. I understand that. But Peter is said to be the second, number 2 in his whole class. I know people that are not number 2 in their class and they get really good merit scholarships. So how does Peter not get a full ride merit scholarship? That's my question. Also, Felicia Hardy, they don't say she's Felicia Hardy. They say her name's Felicia, kind of Harry's assistant / Norman Osborn's assistant before he died. I'm kind of neutral on her. She doesn't do much in the movie, but like they don't set her up to do much more in the future either. So I'm kind of wondering, is that Felicia Hardy? Is that not? Also, other Midtown High students, like Flash, for example, in comics, Flash joins the military after high school as he's inspired by, or not after high school, after college, he joins the military as he's inspired by the example Spider-Man sets as a hero. Because obviously, if you remember, Flash is a big Spider-Man fan. I was hoping they would show that, like maybe they'll do a thing where Flash goes straight from high school to the military. They don't do that at all. They don't even mention Flash, which was really surprising. I don't even remember seeing any of the students from Midtown High in this film besides like Gwen and Peter. So I was kind of wondering what happened to them. Did they go on to college? Did they die? What's going on? Like, I know most of them probably didn't die, obviously, but it's just the curiosity is there. Also, the Rhino ending, I'm very mixed on that. I don't know how I feel about the way they ended it. Like, it didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth, but at the same time, it didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. It just kind of left a neutral taste, which is why it's in my neutral category. Also, no Uncle Ben in this movie. I was really mixed on that because Uncle Ben obviously plays a very crucial part in Peter Parker's life. But at the same time, the Raimi films, and I know I'm mentioning the Raimi films quite a bit, it's not because I'm comparing it to the Raimi films, but I'm using the Raimi films as an example of what has been done before with Spider-Man. The Raimi films beat the drum to death with Uncle Ben. So I do, in a sense, appreciate them not doing that again in this film franchise. But at the same time, they could have done a little bit of something with Uncle Ben, maybe, in a flashback per se, instead of just really like they really moved on with the sequel. The only thing they really did, which was dwelling from the first movie, was the untold story aspect with Peter's parents and Gwen's dad. Also, last but not least, in my neutral category, no Mary Jane Watson. Obviously, she was originally going to be in the film, and they took her part out. While I don't mind that, because I don't know how the film was supposed to be beforehand, but it really flows well in the way this one is. I did enjoy that. It flows pretty well. Doesn't really get dull. It stays pretty good to go the whole way through. But Mary Jane Watson could have been in this movie, and I think that would have been really good for her. The reason being because in comics, when Gwen dies, that's something that really brings Mary Jane and Peter together. Because beforehand, they didn't really, not like get along per se, but they weren't together really. But once Gwen died, that really brought them closer. And if you don't believe me, read Spider-Man Blue. That's a great example of that. And also just look up their history in general in comics. So I felt like this one would have been really cool, because if Mary Jane was in this movie, they could have done what they did in comics and had Gwen's death bring them closer together. Like, I'm not saying they automatically become a romantic, couple immediately after the death, but at least we'd have something to bring them closer together. And from there, it could grow. Maybe at the end of the next movie, they could become a romantic couple, or they can, at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 4, they become a couple. I don't know, just something like that. Because at this point, I'm like, what's going to bring them together, So, yeah, that's it for me. If I had to give this movie a rating, I'd say a solid 7. Even though actually I hate giving ratings like that now, because I feel like they're really pointless to a degree, because it's really how people feel about the weight of those numbers. So I'd say I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie, and I recommend you guys go see it, because you most likely will enjoy it too, at least in my opinion. So yeah, go see it if you want to. Don't see it if you don't want to. It's hybrid. Sorry, the review's kind of it's not rushed, but it's kind of because I'm sick today. So yeah, comment below your guys' thoughts. If you've seen the movie, please try keeping the comment section spoiler free, even though I know this is like a minor spoilerish review. So yeah, this hybrid, and I'll see you later.